All right.
And with that,
Mikey,
speaking
of
of Browns-Ravens, let's bring in our next guest. He covers the Ravens for The Athletic. I am going to attempt to pronounce his last name, and I hope I do it right. Jeff Zrebiec. Jeff, how close was I?
Close enough. It's Zrebiec.
Zrebiec. I'll do better next time,
Yeah.
Jeff. But thanks for joining us today.
No worries.
Baltimore Ravens for The Athletic. He comes highly recommended from our own Athletic beat writer, Jason Lloyd. So, Jeff, we appreciate taking some time. And are you ready for Sunday?
My pleasure, guys. It's good to join you.
Is he ready? He's not playing. What is he doing?
No.
He's got to come to Cleveland. He's got to cover the game. He's got to
it's not like
write
it's a
about
long
this
trip
Browns
from
defense. I've
Baltimore
been a
to
beat
Cleveland
reporter.
for crying
You got to
out loud.
mentally prepare for this stuff.
Jeff, let's dive in on the game.
I'm actually driving too, guys, so it
Nice.
is a little bit of a long trip. For some reason, the flights this year it was a little too much for me to pay to come to Cleveland. So I'll be hopping in a car Saturday and heading over your way.
Well, safe travels. Jeff, let's talk about the game. I didn't see the whole Ravens game Sunday. I saw the parts after CBS put it on nationally. I wasn't overwhelmed by the offense at all. And I thought, if they get a couple of first downs, either in regulation or overtime, they're in Tucker's range and they probably close it out. And I know that there was a bad call, but where are the Ravens right now in terms of hitting on all cylinders? They're clearly not at 100%, at least not by my eyes. Where do you have them?
Yeah, no, there's no question. I mean, I thought they pretty much gave, not taking anything away from the Colts, but I thought they pretty much gave away that game Sunday. Mistakes on offense, not falling on turnovers, not executing on third down. I thought it was kind of a comedy of errors at different points, and that's why they're 2-1. But I think we all expected the offense to be a work in progress. This is a totally new system, and we knew it would take a little while for them to kind of be clicking on all cylinders. I think, the learning curve has sort of been lengthened, because A, none of these guys played in the preseason, and B, they've had so many injuries. And I think they went out in Cincinnati in week 2 and they played extremely well. And, they were taking some downfield shots and connecting on them. They ran the ball well. It's one of the better games Jackson has ever played in terms of, going through his reads, getting the ball to different guys. They were just in total control of that game. They outplayed the Bengals pretty well. And if not for, allowing a punt return touchdown, that game could have been pretty lopsided. So I think people expected that to continue. But no, they took a big step back offensively against the Colts. There's no doubt about that. I think they're still searching for their identity a little bit offensively. And I think they're still trying to make up for some of the injuries they've sustained, which they've struggled to do.
Jeff, we played the Cincinnati Bengals, and there was a little bit of before the game, just guys saying the Browns are the Browns, right? And traditionally throughout the AFC North, the Browns have been, most times the worst team in the division, not being able to beat Pittsburgh, and definitely not having great, success against the Ravens. And that goes back to Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson when he's played the full game. Is there a sense that the Browns are still the Browns, or is there a sense that, the Browns this year are a little bit different because of who they have at quarterback and just the way the defense is playing?
No, I mean, I don't think I don't know how you could look at that defense and come away and say the Browns are still the Browns. Not that the Browns haven't had good defenses in the past or haven't had good players at certain positions, and 24-6 for John Harbaugh against the Browns, but a lot of those games have been really close, and rarely have the Browns made it easy even on the best Ravens teams in these matchups. I think they understand what a challenge it's going to be. I mean, after losing to the Colts at home, you're really not in a position to look past anybody and say anything like the Browns are still the Browns. I think the Browns have the Ravens' full attention and full respect. I think they know they're going to have to play a lot better than they played certainly last week to win this game Sunday. And, I think especially when you look at the Ravens offense versus Browns defense matchup, they're going to have to do a lot of things better to keep themselves in that game, or that could get ugly Sunday if we don't see a better Ravens offensive effort.
Jeff, Roquan Smith we heard all the comments of what he said yesterday in terms of going into Cleveland and beating a team up in front of their wife and their kids. A lot of people have taken that part of that text or part of that quote out of context. So, of course, it's going to be used as bulletin board material. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it, actually, that whole comment he made as he was complimenting the Browns, saying they're very physical and they'd want to do the same to us. But you know, things are taken out of context.
Yeah.
Has he been talked to about that? Any deal or no deal at all?
No. I mean, I didn't even, I was in the locker room. He was on the podium when he said it. I was in the locker room. But when they sent out the transcripts, I saw it. And it didn't even really dawn on me that there was going to be a big deal made about that, just because I thought it was pretty clear he was talking about just having to have that mentality when you go on the road, and that's what you need, not specifically anything about the Browns. But I will say this, Roquan Smith, he would fit in those old Ravens teams with Ray Lewis and Bart Scott and Terrell Suggs and those guys. Those guys like to talk. And I don't think Roquan Smith even looks at it as trash talk. I just think he's kind of talking more about his mentality and matter of fact. But these days, especially ahead of a rivalry game, it doesn't take too much to get people excited. And to be honest with you, I don't think Roquan is fazed by it at all. I think he's fine with having it on him. He talked a good bit before the Bengals game too, and he was kind of the first one on the sideline at the end of the game, waving the Bengals goodbye on their home field and talking about the victory after the game, and talking about how not everybody likes the Bengals too much. So he's not afraid to have it on him. But in generally, I agree with you. I think the context of that quote, he's more talking about a mentality, not talking about particularly embarrassing the Browns.
By the way, I don't know if he's as good as those guys on the field, but he certainly can't be any worse than those guys in the media, right?
You mean in their broadcasting?
Yeah, I don't want to put you in that spot. I'm kidding. That's me saying that. That's me saying that, not you.
Way to not take the bait, Jeff.
Yeah, right.
He's been around long enough.
Bart Scott has said some mind-blowing dumb stuff.
Wild stuff at times.
Just ridiculous.
I agree.
Yeah. In terms of this matchup specifically, I think when we look at the Ravens' defense, there's always an assumption that the Ravens and Steelers are always good on defense. And that's not always the case. The Ravens defense in recent years has been a little up and down. Obviously, they played a lot better last year once they got Roquan Smith. Where are they right now? How do you see them in the pantheon of defenses in the NFL in 2023 through 3 games?
I think they're a solid defense with some potential. I think they have a lot of young players on the defense that we've seen some in flashes, and by the end of the season, these guys could be, big-time difference makers. The safety, the first-round pick, Kyle Hamilton, has been really good early. Former first-round outside linebacker Dafe Owe got off to a really good start. Now he's hurt. Patrick Queen is probably having his best season playing alongside Roquan Smith. I think they've got a lot of interesting pieces there, but I don't think they're there yet. I think they're still kind of growing, a work in progress. They're really hurt on the edge. And, the concern is with no Marlon Humphrey, their top corner. I don't expect him to play Sunday. He hasn't practiced since like August 15th. So the concern was their cornerback group. Well, the cornerback group's been okay. They've played reasonably well. They certainly did a number on the Bengals receivers, which was a surprise. The problem has been the edge and getting pressure on the edge and, up front. They just haven't been able to generate a ton of pass rush without blitzing, and that's a concern. I mean, the best Ravens defenses usually have guys on that edge that can get to the quarterback. Jadeveon Clowney has actually done a nice job. He hasn't been the issue. It's the other guys who are – they're pulling guys off the practice squad and playing them high 40s, low 50 snaps a game just because of the injuries. They're without like four edge guys right now. I mean, on Sunday, we may see Kyle Van Noy play. He was just signed yesterday, and he hasn't, yesterday was his first NFL practice since January when he was with the Chargers. So that's how beat up they are on the edge. And I think that's the big concern about this defense. How do you generate consistent pressure? They really haven't been able to do it without blitzing. And if you keep blitzing, you're going to honestly be vulnerable on the back end.
You know, Jeff, one of the guys that we have not mentioned or any of the skill guys for the Baltimore Ravens. You know, Odell Beckham Jr. is he's been out, he hasn't practiced much, and a guy like Mark Andrews. It's just like, at one point in time, I saw him right underneath Kelsey is the way they really used him in Baltimore. He was one of the guys that scared everybody as one of the tight ends. Has it been frustrating that he hasn't gotten loose a little bit? And where do you guys stand in terms of your skill positions in the vertical passing game?
Yeah, Andrews missed the first game. He was hurt, and I think he's still kind of getting healthy. He did have a decent showing. Touchdown against the Bengals, played reasonably well. Then he was quiet this past week. I think the concern, particularly this week with them, is just the Bengals, obviously, with their linebackers, their defensive backs, they have the speed to take away, they have the speed to really take away the middle of the field and still be able to kind of shut off things on the edges if Lamar wants to run. And I imagine they'll spend a ton of attention on Mark Andrews. He's had his best games against Cleveland in the past. He's sort of been a thorn in their side a little bit. But yeah, he's been fine. They're still trying to find themselves on offensively. They had this upgrade the receiver group. I think first round pick Zay Flowers has been as advertised for the most part. But they really haven't had consistency with their other targets. I still think they're trying to kind of figure out and get the ball distribution ratio right and make sure they're getting other guys involved. And they just haven't found that correct mix yet. And now they're going to probably go into Cleveland a couple guys short. Bateman, their former first-round pick, is dealing with a hamstring. Beckham, I thought, would play Sunday, and maybe he still will. But we haven't seen him on the practice field in about 10 days. And if he's not practicing on Thursday, I have a hard time believing he's going to play on Sunday after missing so much time. So they're hurt there on the outside too. And obviously that affects Mark Andrews because, if you don't have to honor him on the outside, you can kind of clog that middle and try to take away Andrews.
Jeff, give us your prediction. Who you got in the game?
I picked the Browns. was working on this for a story I'm writing Saturday. I kind of picked a low scoring, like a 2013. I'm thinking of picking a 2013, 21-13 type game. I just don't see how the Ravens are going to consistently move the ball against this Browns, this Browns defense. They're quick. Blocking Myles Garrett and Darius Smith is one thing. The DBs are playing great. It just looks like a complete defense. And the timing for the Ravens going in there when they still really haven't figured things out offensively and they're so banged up at key spots, I don't think the timing is very good for them to go out there and beat a good team on the road.